Imagine waking up one day to find yourself trapped in a prison of your own making. The walls are constructed from the bricks of your deepest fears, the bars forged from the chains of your darkest desires. You try to remember how you ended up here, but the memories are hazy, distorted by the lens of time. All you know is that you're stuck, and the door to freedom seems forever out of reach. As you pace back and forth within the confines of your cell, you begin to realize that this prison is not just physical, but also spiritual. The walls that trap you are not just made of stone and steel, but also of the doubts and fears that plague your heart. The bars that hold you captive are not just cold metal, but also the desires and distractions that keep you from fulfilling your true potential. You wonder how this happened. How did you, a believer in the all-powerful Allah, end up trapped in this prison of self-destruction? You think back to the days when your faith was strong, when your heart was pure and your intentions were clear. What went wrong? When did you start to lose your way? As you search for answers, you begin to realize that the problem lies not in the external circumstances of your life, but in the internal workings of your own heart. You have been so focused on the external world, on achieving success and accumulating wealth, that you have neglected the internal world, the world of your own soul. You have been living a life of contradiction, a life where your actions and your intentions are at odds with each other. You claim to be a servant of Allah, but your actions betray a different master. You say you want to please Allah, but your desires and your fears hold you back. This contradiction is the root of your problem. It is the source of the internal conflict that rages within you. It is the reason why you feel trapped, why you feel like you're living a lie. But there is hope. There is a way out of this prison, a way to reconcile the contradictions of your heart and to find true freedom. It begins with a recognition of the problem, a recognition of the internal conflict that rages within you. It begins with a willingness to confront the contradictions of your heart, to face the fears and the desires that hold you back. And it begins with a question: what is the true nature of this internal conflict? What is the root cause of this contradiction that plagues your heart? Is it a result of external circumstances, or is it a symptom of a deeper, more profound problem? As you delve deeper into the nature of this internal conflict, you begin to realize that it is not just a personal problem, but a universal human struggle. It is a struggle that has been waged throughout history, a struggle that has been described by scholars and sages from various traditions. In Islamic philosophy, this struggle is described as the conflict between the nafs, the ego self, and the ra, the spirit self. The nafs is the part of us that is driven by desires, fears, and doubts. It is the part of us that is connected to the external world, the world of sensory experience. The ra, on the other hand, is the part of us that is connected to the internal world, the world of spiritual experience. It is the part of us that is driven by faith, hope, and love. According to Imam al-Ghazali, the renowned Islamic scholar, the nafs is like a wild horse that needs to be tamed. If left unchecked, it will lead us astray, causing us to become mired in the swamp of our own desires and fears. But if we can tame it, if we can bring it under the control of our rule, then we can achieve true freedom and happiness. But how do we do this? How do we tame the wild horse of our nafs and bring it under the control of our ra? This is the question that has puzzled scholars and sages for centuries. It is a question that requires a deep understanding of the human psyche, a deep understanding of the nature of the nafs and the ra. As you ponder this question, you begin to realize that the answer lies not in the external world, but in the internal world. It lies not in the realm of sensory experience, but in the realm of spiritual experience. It lies in the realm of the heart, the realm of faith, hope, and love. But what is the heart? What is this mysterious entity that is said to be the seat of our emotions, our desires, and our fears? Is it just a physical organ, a pump that circulates blood throughout our body? Or is it something more, something deeper? As you explore this question, you begin to realize that the heart is not just a physical organ, but a spiritual entity. It is the seat of our ruh, the seat of our spiritual self. It is the place where our faith, hope, and love reside. It is the place where we connect with Allah, where we experience the presence of the divine. But the heart is also a battleground. It is a place where our nafs and our ruh engage in a constant struggle. It is a place where our desires, fears, and doubts clash with our faith, hope, and love. It is a place where we must constantly strive to tame the wild horse of our nafs, to bring it under the control of our ra. As you reflect on this struggle, you begin to realize that it is not just a personal struggle, but a universal human struggle. It is a struggle that is waged within every human heart. It is a struggle that requires courage, perseverance, and faith. And it is a struggle that requires a deep understanding of the nature of the heart, the nature of the nafs and the ra. It requires a deep understanding of the spiritual forces that shape our lives, the forces of faith, hope, and love. As you ponder this question, you begin to realize that the answer lies not in the external world, but in the internal world. It lies not in the realm of sensory experience, but in the realm of spiritual experience. It lies in the realm of the heart, the realm of faith, hope, and love. And it is here, in this realm, that you will find the key to unlocking the secrets of your heart. You will find the key to taming the wild horse of your nafs, to bringing it under the control of your ra. You will find the key to achieving true freedom and happiness. But the journey ahead will not be easy. It will require courage, perseverance, and faith. It will require a willingness to confront the contradictions of your heart, to face the fears and desires that hold you back. It will require a willingness to let go of the things that are holding you back, to surrender to the will of Allah. Are you ready to embark on this journey? Are you ready to confront the contradictions of your heart, to face the fears and desires that hold you back? Are you ready to let go of the things that are holding you back, to surrender to the will of Allah? The choice is yours, but know this, the journey ahead will be worth it, for it is only by confronting the contradictions of our hearts, by facing our fears and desires, that we can achieve true freedom and happiness. It is only by surrendering to the will of Allah that we can find peace and contentment in this life and the next. As you continue on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth, you begin to realize that the consequences of neglecting your heart and soul are far more profound than you ever could have imagined. The contradictions of your heart, the fears and desires that hold you back, have a ripple effect that impacts every area of your life. You start to notice how your relationships with others are affected by the state of your heart. When you are consumed by your own fears and desires, you become self-centered and selfish, causing harm to those around you. You start to see how your actions, or lack thereof, have consequences that extend far beyond your own individual life. You realize that the state of your heart also affects your relationship with Allah. When your heart is filled with doubts and fears, you begin to question Allah's wisdom and justice. You start to see Allah as a distant, uninvolved deity rather than a loving and merciful God who is intimately involved in every aspect of your life. As you reflect on the state of your heart, you begin to understand the wisdom behind the Prophet Muhammad's statement, "The heart is the king of the body and the limbs are its soldiers. If the king is righteous, the soldiers will be righteous, but if the king is corrupt, the soldiers will be corrupt." Musnad Ahmad. You start to see how the corruption of your heart has led to the corruption of your actions, and how this, in turn, has affected every area of your life. You begin to understand the importance of purifying your heart, of cleansing it from the doubts and fears that hold you back. But how do you do this? How do you purify your heart and bring it back to a state of righteousness and justice? This is the question that has puzzled scholars and sages for centuries. It is a question that requires a deep understanding of the human psyche, a deep understanding of the nature of the heart and the soul. As you ponder this question, you begin to realize that the answer lies not in external actions or rituals, but in internal transformation. It lies not in changing your circumstances, but in changing your heart. It lies not in external success, but in internal righteousness. You start to see that the purification of the heart is not just a moral or ethical issue, but a spiritual one. It is not just about changing your behavior, but about changing your very nature. It is not just about becoming a better person, but about becoming a new person, a person who is transformed from the inside out. As you reflect on this, you begin to understand the wisdom behind the Quranic verse. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Quran 13:11. You start to see that the transformation of your heart is not just a personal issue, but a communal one. It is not just about changing yourself, but about changing the world around you. It is not just about becoming a better person, but about becoming a force for good in the world. And it is here in this realization that you begin to understand the true nature of the journey ahead. You begin to see that it is not just a journey of personal transformation, but a journey of spiritual growth and communal change. You begin to see that it is not just about changing yourself, but about changing the world. As you stand at the crossroads, gazing out at the vast expanse of your own potential, you begin to realize that the journey ahead will require a fundamental transformation. It will demand that you challenge the status quo, that you rebel against the forces that have held you back for so long. You start to see that the greatest enemy you face is not the external world, but your own internal doubts and fears. You realize that the only way to break free from the prison of your own making is to confront these doubts and fears head on. You begin to understand the wisdom behind the Quranic verse. And indeed, with hardship comes ease. Quran 94:5. You start to see that the struggles you face are not obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities for growth and transformation. As you embark on this journey of rebellion, you start to develop a new mindset, a mindset that is rooted in faith, hope, and love. You begin to see that the only way to break free from the shackles of your own doubts and fears is to surrender to the will of Allah. You start to understand the concept of tawakkul, the idea of putting your trust in Allah. You realize that tawakkul is not just a feeling, but a choice to trust in Allah's wisdom and justice, even when the world around you seems to be falling apart. As you cultivate this mindset of tawakkul, you start to experience a sense of freedom, a sense of liberation from the doubts and fears that once held you back. You begin to see that the only way to truly break free is to surrender to the will of Allah, to trust in His wisdom and justice. You start to understand the wisdom behind the Quranic verse, and whoever trusts in Allah, He is sufficient for him. Quran 65:3. You realize that Allah is not just a distant deity, but a loving and merciful God who is intimately involved in every aspect of your life. As you walk this path of rebellion, you start to develop a new sense of purpose, a sense of purpose that is rooted in your faith. You begin to see that your life is not just about achieving external success, but about cultivating internal righteousness. You start to understand the concept of ihsan, the idea of living a life of excellence and virtue. You realize that ihsan is not just a moral or ethical concept, but a spiritual one, a concept that is rooted in your relationship with Allah. As you cultivate this mindset of ihsan, you start to experience a sense of transformation, a sense of growth and development. You begin to see that the only way to truly break free is to live a life of excellence and virtue, a life that is rooted in your faith. As you stand at the pinnacle of your journey, looking out at the breathtaking vista of your own transformation, you begin to realize that the ultimate truth is not something that can be grasped intellectually, but something that must be experienced spiritually. You start to see that the journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth is not a destination, but a process. It is a process of unfolding, of becoming, of evolving into the best version of yourself. You begin to understand the wisdom behind the Quranic verse, and indeed, you are on a high level of moral excellence. Quran 68:4. You realize that this verse is not just a description of the Prophet Muhammad's character, but a prescription for your own spiritual growth. You start to see that the ultimate truth is not something that can be taught, but something that must be caught. It is a virus of the heart, a contagion of the soul. It is something that must be experienced, not just intellectually, but spiritually. As you bask in the radiance of this ultimate truth, you begin to realize that the journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth is not just about you, but about the world around you. You start to see that the transformation of your own heart is not just a personal victory, but a communal one. You begin to understand the wisdom behind the Quranic verse. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Quran 13:11. You realize that this verse is not just a description of the dynamics of social change, but a prescription for your own spiritual growth. You start to see that the ultimate truth is not something that can be contained within the boundaries of your own heart, but something that must be shared with the world. You begin to realize that the transformation of your own heart is not just a personal responsibility, but a communal one. As you stand at the pinnacle of your journey, looking out at the breathtaking vista of your own transformation, you begin to understand the ultimate truth. You realize that the journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth is not just about you, but about the world around you. You start to see that the transformation of your own heart is not just a personal victory, but a communal one. And in this moment of profound realization, you are left with a haunting question. What will you do with this ultimate truth? Will you keep it to yourself, or will you share it with the world? The choice is yours, but know this, the world is waiting.